With the club deep in debt and the FFA circling, Nathan Tinkler revealed this afternoon he'd put the struggling Jets into voluntary administration. But the governing body had already had enough, within hours terminating the Tinkler-run Hunter Sports Group's A-League licence. FFA boss David Gallop was scathing, saying Newcastle needs a club operating in a stable environment with certainty of resources in order to be successful and competitive in the A-League and to properly represent the community. HSG has proved to be incapable of meeting these requirements, adding that HSG had behaved in a deplorable way towards players and staff in failing to meet the basic obligations to pay wages. Gallop went on to say that today's actions was the first step in restoring the proud traditions of football in northern New South Wales. Today's drama, the latest in a long line of sporting failures for Nathan Tinkler. He lost control of the Newcastle for a turbulent 3 years. His Patinack Farm thoroughbred racing empire and motor are also gone.
Michael Caine joins us live now. And Michael, what's been the reaction to today's events?
Thanks, Tash. Well, I can tell you that there has been plenty of reaction in the footballing community in northern New South Wales. A sigh of relief. Northern New South Wales football, they've applauded the move by the FFA and also former players. They still think they're in the mix to come back to this club. They've only just recently been sacked, and they believe that now that the FFA have full control, that they still believe that they can play a part in the future of the club. Also, interestingly enough, we contacted some Jets officials this afternoon in regards to the voluntary into the Nathan Tinkler's decision to make that voluntary decision late this afternoon, and they also said that they had no idea in regards to any decision that was made. So I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some plenty of other news coming out of the Newcastle Jets camp in the coming days. Back to you.
Thank you, Michael. Michael Caine reporting there.
She's the grand old dame of Newcastle on the brink of ruin. Last week, NBN News was given an exclusive look inside the former post office, reigniting debate about its future.
This is a state-significant building. It's not just important to Newcastle.
The National Trust believes, given the state the building was in when it was handed to the Awabakal Land Council, the New South Wales government should pay its share.
A relatively small amount of money could at least get this building to the stage where it's not going to get any worse.
While the total cost is yet to be determined, the Land Council believes it could be as much as $20 million. Newcastle MP Tim Crackenthorpe says he's met with the current owners.
They're getting quotes to make it watertight and get rid of the asbestos. They do say they have the money to do those two things at least.
As for possible state funding, that's in the hands of the Heritage Minister.
Look, I can't speculate on that. The government has got a lot of money, $1.7 billion out of selling our port. They're selling the poles and wires.
The Baird government says it's open to ideas but would need to see a business plan first.
Need to be fairly clear about the costs, who would pay all of those costs, who would have access to the building.
In 2010, the then Labor government bought the building for $4.25 million. It indicated at the time that it would seek Commonwealth funding, but federal MP Sharon Claydon says since it's not a National Heritage listed building, it doesn't qualify.
There are already 53 built heritage projects on that national list, so they're all sharing $4.5 million. That is not going to be a drop in the ocean for what is required for the Newcastle Post Office.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
And that's going to really give us much better indication of whether or not the strategies have worked and whether or not there is a major problem. If there's a problem detected, then we have to fix it.
It was an unexpected discovery, a 62-metre deep mine shaft right in the middle of Newcastle Council's works at Blackbutt Reserve. Today you'd never know the difference. The hole cost $365,000 to fill and delayed completion by 4 months, but now in its place is a new amenities block.
It cost a bit of money to fill up, but it's all gone now. We've still retained some of the bricks for history, but yet nobody would know it there, and the toilet block's open.
Also open today with the help of students from New Lambton Public, a new wildlife arena. The facility provides a covered outdoor classroom for students to interact with Blackbutt's animals.
There's been a lot of planning and a lot of allocation of funds, but to see the plans finally coming to fruition to have this great covered outdoor learning facility.
Meanwhile, work continues nearby to provide more shelters and barbecues. It's hoped Stage 2 will begin shortly. It includes another car park and an all-age adventure playground at Richleys Reserve.
Next financial year, we're hoping to put in a playground over Richley Reserve. If not, we'll design it ready for the next financial year.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
It's not acceptable that communities are blackmailed that their electricity network has to be sold off before they'll get the essential infrastructure that their communities need.
A recent patch of poor form weighed heavily on this night's halfback. Criticism on social media and ridicule on eBay also left Tyrone Roberts upset and disappointed.
$2 on eBay. So, the stuff like that, it hurts, and I've been here for a long time. I just thought I'd had a bit more support. That was one of the hard stages I had to go through, and it was a bit disappointing.
But last Sunday he responded in the best possible way, playing a big role in attack against the Tigers, and he credits his coach.
Me and Stave's been talking for the last couple of weeks, and he's just said, mate, just hang in there, and and it showed on the weekend that his patience paid off.
Sione Matautia also excelled at centre, but knows his side will have to lift again on Monday, even against a depleted Broncos outfit.
One thing about the Broncos is they've got a good nursery there with players coming up, so that's the one thing that we can't do is, we can't be complacent and go in there acting like it's going to be a really hard game still.
It will also be Wayne Bennett's first match against Newcastle since returning to Brisbane.
He's got a job to do and I've got a job to do, and we're pretty much putting our heads down and getting that done.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
They're yet to record a win in the NPL, but the Magpies are still in a generous mood. This Sunday, Maitland will hold a Sponsors Day, looking to raise money for Harry's House, a retreat for families with children living with cancer. It's a cause that hits close to home for the club.
Harry was 7 years old when they lost him to brain cancer, and he was a Maitland Junior at the time. And his two brothers, Oscar and Campbell, are both Maitland Juniors.
The first grade side will wear a commemorative strip that will be auctioned off following the clash with Charlestown City. With a washout game tonight, the Magpies are hoping that elusive first win comes before then.
We certainly haven't been lucky, and so I think, we're not far away from a win, and it'll be beautiful to this time next week to have 2 under our belt.
Also this Sunday, the second-placed Bears will celebrate a milestone when they host third-placed Hamilton. Western stalwart Robbie Turnbull will make his 200th first-grade appearance, having started with the club as an 18-year-old in 2004.
I was probably happy to play 10, let alone 200, but it's been a good ride. I don't think at that stage I was thinking too far ahead, apart from just having a bit of fun and enjoying myself.
In 199 games, Turnbull has experienced premiership wins as well as 3 grand final losses. Despite mixed results in the pre-season, the perennial underdogs are again contenders. So could this be the year of the Bear?
The way the players are playing, we're playing for each other, we're playing for our club and for the shirt, so long may it continue, hopefully this season.
We've made a number of important decisions today, the most important of which is that the players who are currently contracted to the club will be provided with like-for-like contracts, and the staff who weren't paid last week will have their obligations met for the next month.
Tens of millions of dollars. That's the conservative estimate Telstra's placed on the damage to the network caused by last month's cyclonic storm. The impact is so great, Hunter GM Chris Cusack says it exceeds Cyclone Yazi, which ravaged Queensland in 2011.
As a result of that, we've brought in an additional 200 field technicians and repair crews to help replace and repair cables.
The task of reconnecting customers has been complex, with water-damaged infrastructure also needing to be replaced. Some people have been given mobile phones and wireless internet devices as compensation.
We expect that we'll still see, for the next few weeks at least, we'll still be have a high fault rate that we're working through till we can get back to where we would normally see.
Meanwhile, business owners who are online attended a conference in Newcastle today designed to help them make the most of the national broadband rollout.
There's some very high-end users who know what to do with it and are doing it, all the way through to people that don't even have a website or emails yet.
It's part of a plan to boost the Hunter economy by helping retailers compete with online counterparts and generate interest from international buyers. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
After football's governing body yesterday burst Nathan Tinkler's bubble, for club officials, today was a step into the unknown. But come 4 o'clock, their future and that of the Jets was made clearer.
We think that Newcastle is a critical region to the future of the Hyundai A-League. From the outset, the FFA has been committed to making sure that this region is strong and healthy, and we want to make sure that every post is a winner for this club.
The club will now be based at Northern New South Wales Football Spears Point headquarters, where the youth team was today currently putting the relatively new facility to good use. Jets office staff have been retained while Mitchell Murphy will stay as the CEO, but the positions of coaching staff, including head coach Phil Stubbins, will be reviewed.
I've spoken to Phil personally this morning, and he's been on, a mission and a journey under the previous ownership of the club. I've made it clear from our perspective that we're stopping to reassess everything right now.
As far as one current Jet is concerned, it's time for change.
Would you like to see Phil Stubbins gone now this has happened?
I would definitely like to see him gone, but it's not just a personal matter with him. I just feel like tactically and mentally and physically, he didn't get the players right up to it. So I just feel like for that point of view, yeah, he needs to go.
Yesterday, Nathan Tinkler accused the FFA of hijacking the potential sale of the Jets to Scottish Premier League club Dundee United. But a statement on the Tangerines website suggested that was way off the mark, and the party was in fact a private faction headed by its chairman. Meanwhile, a player-manager that's had two of his clients let go by the Jets has told them to sit tight.
Obviously at the moment it's a no from the current coaching staff, so at this point in time it's still a no. So as I said, everything changes in football, can change in a day, so we just have to sit back and wait for an opportunity.
There's a whole range of things that we'll review, including all of that in the coming weeks.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
He wasn't supposed to fight again so soon. But Rocky Jurkic's camp believes the 27-year-old will cope with the tight turnaround between bouts.
It's not ideal having a fight preparation for 2 weeks, but as I said, 3 weeks ago, he had a week off and then trained again for 2 weeks and he's, as I said, right to go.
I've been in the ring sparring, been doing the road runs, been doing everything that we normally do. Just so happens to be a lot sooner than usual.
Just 4 weeks after claiming the WBA Asia title by becoming the first man to knock out Adrian Campbell, Rocky will face a relatively unknown fighter from Thailand in Sydney on Saturday. Jurkic knows he'll have to be cautious early if he's going to claim the IBO Asia Pacific Junior Middleweight belt.
Anyone can get caught at any given time in the ring, so I just got to stay sharp mentally, physically, and just go in there and just perform, do my job.
It was another frustrating result actually to come so close to winning and come in second. So yeah, second's always a great result. You can't complain too much. But the disappointing thing from that one is I flew my slowest time of the day in the final four. Every time we have a long break, it slows us down in the plane because we've done so many modifications to it. So I'm hoping we'll be able to get to Croatia. We put the gloves back on, they'll feel good, and off we go racing.
We hope to see as many of the volunteer workers here as possible. They'll be granted free admission, children under 16 for free as well. It's really a family day we're trying to put on. There'll be jumping castles, face painting and all the usual entertainment for the kids, so it's an opportunity to say thank you.
It's alleged that that man was meeting with who he thought was a 14-year-old boy to engage in sexual activity.
Another life cut tragically short. Late yesterday, it's believed Jasmine O'Sullivan was driving a Holden Commodore when it veered to the wrong side of John Renshaw Drive and crashed into a four-wheel drive. It then collided head-on with a Subaru.
As a result of that impact, a 23-year-old Taro woman died of her injuries at the scene, and a 53-year-old woman was trapped for about an hour and a half.
A fourth car then hit the back of the Subaru. Its driver, a 33-year-old man, sustained chest injuries.
Initial investigations point to the fact that speed may be an issue.
The road was closed in both directions for 6.5 hours while crews worked to clear the scene. Today, social media has been inundated with tributes to the woman who died, friends describing her as a beautiful soul who was taken too soon. Shockingly, it's the 9th death on the region's roads in a month, and it has authorities scratching their heads.
Any fatalities at all are too many on our roads. So the message that we have is for all drivers to drive within the speed limit, within the road conditions, and to take due care.
It comes less than a week after Paul Dixon and Jacob Mulroy were killed in a crash on the notorious Freeman's Drive near Currambong. Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
A spell of wet weather, including a devastating storm. It's no surprise wine country hasn't appeared too enticing lately. To help change that, last week the state government announced a $1 million package to provide a boost to the region. Now $110,000 of that relief has been released under the Hunter Storm Recovery Plan.
It has a longer term effect where people just think, it's a disaster area, we shouldn't go there, and it's a long way from the truth. And so we need to get out there and promote the valley as being open again.
While grateful for the grant, the Hunter Valley Wine and Tourism Association fears it's not enough to make the difference that's needed. Vice President Andrew Margan says the region requires more funding to create a 3-year marketing campaign.
The Barossa Valley were just given $6 million by their government to promote themselves as a wine tourism area, and that's the sort of thing we're competing with.
The money will go towards boosting the Hunter Valley Winter Campaign, which is centred on promoting the region's Wine and Food Month this June.
And it's an enormous amount of activity based around the incredible quality of wine and food that we offer here in the Hunter Valley.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
a grand underground structure unlike any other. The Res, as it's known, originally held 2 million litres of water from the Walker Waterworks at Maitland, but has been locked up and empty since the early 70s. Today the door was open to the public for the first time.
Today, you stand where it all began, back in 1882.
Guided tours started this morning, taking people through the fascinating history of the region's first water reservoir.
I reckon it was great. I really enjoyed it. It's something that I didn't think I'd ever do.
Just the general history and the structure of the building is very good.
Hunter Water has spent the past 2 years and $250,000 getting the site ready.
We've had to do things like install ventilation to make sure that there's no noxious gases down there so that it's safe for people to go down there. We've had to put in stairs, we've had to put in lighting, audio visual equipment. It's been a really long but exciting challenge too.
Demand to see the Res has been incredible, with 15,000 people on the ballot. At the moment it's only open 1 day a month, but Hunter Water hopes that will change.
We're hoping that we might be able to run horror movies down here, have photography exhibitions. The possibilities are almost limitless in terms of what Hunter Water can actually use the Res for and share it with the Newcastle community.
For more information on how to register, visit our website. Renee Feder, NBN News.
The hype of a coach coming back to his former club to face his understudy is an interesting prospect to most, but the Knights captain isn't buying into it.
I mean, it's probably more of the media that's going to make something of it. Look, I think it is all media. You know, you guys want to drum up, you know, the Stoney, Wayne versus Stoney, Wayne versus us versus Wayne, and that's what it's all about.
After notching up a win against the Tigers last weekend, the focus is now firmly on a depleted Broncos side missing key players due to state of origin commitments.
It's not a week to be complacent. It's not a week to slacken off. It's, if anything, it's a week to be more aware, do some more homework on our video.
Rick Stone's side is still wary of their opposition in all areas of the field.
And plenty of blokes who show and go. They take the line on, and we've got to be wary of that. The hooker, halves, fullback.
Meanwhile, the Knights have bolstered its forward pack for the next 2 seasons after announcing the signing of Mickey Payer from English Super League club Hull FC. The 29-year-old Tongan international today agreed to a 2-year contract. Michael Kane, NBN News.
Getting a lot of interest for James over in the UK. We've put some footage together and clubs have seen his attributes. Obviously his blistering pace and getting in behind defences and setting up a few goals for Emile Heskey hasn't hurt his chances.
Struggling to pick up wins this year, the Hunters are desperate to find consistent form but aren't giving up hope of featuring in the finals.
2 wins and we could easily find ourselves in the finals playoffs. It's just a matter of getting over that hump.
A shoulder injury has John O'Howe racing against the clock to be fit for tomorrow's clash with Hornsby. The side has matched it with most clubs so far this season, but it's last quarter lapses that have proved costly.
Unfortunately, it's that fourth quarter, which is fairly indicative of how we've been playing this season. Just applying the pressure the whole 4 quarters, and I think our record will go to show that we're a lot stronger a team than what we are.
Meanwhile, discarded Hunters import Justin Hamilton will this weekend line up for his new club Townsville Heat in the Australian Basketball League. Michael Kane, NBN News.
On the track here, he's won here before, so hopefully he can win again. On the track here, he's won here before, so hopefully.
Police have established a crime scene, and New South Wales Police will be investigating with the assistance of the Recreational Aircraft of Australia.
Last week, the future of the Hunters' highly successful GP Access after-hours service was in doubt, with the federal budget providing no clarity on future funding. Yesterday, confirmation came through. The service will be funded for the next 12 months under the new Hunter New England and Central Coast Primary Health Network.
We're talking about 50,000 people a year visit the service, 80,000 people call our call centre and benefit from that service. So, and not to mention there's also aged care facilities. 90 aged care facilities in the region depend upon that service to avoid hospital admissions as well.
Federal member for Newcastle Sharon Clayton believes the federal government heard the community's pleas to maintain the service.
The people of Newcastle and indeed the Hunter region have spoke loud and clear they will not let this service disappear.
Ms Clayton says she'll be working to ensure ongoing support.
It will be the job of my Labor colleagues and I to work closely with GP Access and the government to ensure that we can secure funding beyond this 12-month period.
Hunter Medicare Local Chair Trent Watson is confident of the service's long-term future.
The department have released a number of different principles of how they want to see after-hour services proceeding in the future, and we know already that GP Access is satisfying all of those principles, so we're quite confident of the future of the funding beyond that.
Coming up against the three-time defending premiers will be a big test, but Lakes United knows what to expect.
I don't think West have changed what they do over the last few years, and we're not expecting them to do that tomorrow.
4 wins from 4 so far this season has been the perfect start for the Seagulls, and tomorrow's top-of-the-table clash with Western Suburbs will be the perfect gauge on just where the club's at.
They've got some danger in their halves as well, with Porter and Jade Porter and Stevie Gordon there. Went and had a look at them play the other day and had a look at some vision. They've just got that same forward pack that just keeps rolling on. Obviously, big Mark Tafua up front there.
After a 2014 season to forget, off-season pickups like halfback Brad Murray from the Rosellas and Cessnock hooker Chris Adams have played a major role in the club's revival.
They've been really critical for us, and I've said before too, but I don't want to sort of ignore the fact that the other boys are doing as well. They're really putting in for one another, and we're just pleased with how we're ticking along at the moment.
And the coach still believes his side can get even better as the season goes on.
We've got a couple of little goals and little standards that we set ourselves from a statistical point of view, and we haven't quite reached it in a few areas at the moment, so we're conscious of that.
Tomorrow's clash at Carl Oval kicks off at 3. Michael Kane, NBN News. The Gropers came to Maitland committed to playing running rugby right from the get-go, and that style almost paid dividends early. But it was the Blacks who made their mark on the scoreboard. A short line out from Dan Runchell saw the hooker find the line. Ryan McCormack adding the extras from the sideline. A penalty goal to Maitland took the score to 10-0, and the side were keen to drive home the advantage. An overlap should have seen Nelson Bay cross out wide midway through the first half. Putting the lost opportunity behind them, an inside ball from Chad Northcott found Mike Hoteen, who did the rest. The outside centre scoring his second straight after the break to put his side in the lead. Northcott was causing havoc every time he touched the ball. A kick chase and regather provided more points. At 21-10 down, the Blacks made their way back into the contest, Jeremy Haddad crossing to close the gap. 5 minutes later, it was the Blacks who crossed again, snatching back the lead. Maitland running out winners 25-21. In other round 6 matches, the Hawks defeated Singleton by 50 points and Southern Beaches scraped home against the Roos. Michael Kane, NBN News.
It's taken almost 2 decades to get off the ground, but tomorrow night, Lake Macquarie Council will consider a recommendation to award Darracon a $26 million contract to start construction on the Glendale interchange.
Stage 1, Section 1, though, very pleased that we're considering the tender tomorrow night, and I hope that all councillors are going to unanimously support it. I'd be surprised if we didn't get that support.
The first stage, which is expected to be complete by the end of 2016, will provide new access points to the Glendale Shopping Centre in a bid to ease traffic congestion.
We're connecting Stockland Drive and Main Road and Glendale Drive, so there will be new entryways around the Stockland Shopping Centre. There will also be a connection through to Cardiff.
The state and federal governments have chipped in for Part 1, but the second section of the first stage is still without funding.
The Pennant Street Bridge will be connecting the roadworks and the interchange to the industrial part of Cardiff. That Pennant Street Bridge is a key part of the effectiveness of the interchange into the long term.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
It's a part of Port Stephens enjoyed by locals and tourists all year round. But at the moment, Shoal Bay's foreshore doesn't match its beautiful surroundings. Council is working to change that, with construction starting on the section between the new wharf and boat ramp, which were completed last year.
Finally, families can come here and enjoy it instead of having to struggle with bush, and so they'll be able to come and enjoy it. The littlies can paddle in the water and it'll be just beautiful.
Work will include a new paved viewing area, a wider footpath, as well as a grassed area with picnic tables. The project is not only the final piece to be upgraded at Shoal Bay, but it will also bring the area into line with other parts of the region.
You will have appreciated our foreshore along Nelson Bay that we completed a couple of years ago, so this was the next link.
Councillor Sally Dover says it should be completed in time for the September school holidays.
Our population would double during the holiday season, so it's important for council to do everything they can to bring the tourists here because all of our businesses benefit.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
Preparing to play his 200th game for Western, Robbie Turnbull received a special tribute from Bears legend John Munro. The visitors were out to spoil the party through Simon Mooney. But Western couldn't hold out for long. Andrew Swan's shot fell to Jacob Bailey, who put Hamilton in front. The Bears were denied an equaliser as Danny Ireland kept out Liam Thornton. Approaching half-time, the home fans could finally celebrate as Herefield levelled the scores in impressive fashion. Hamilton had the chance to restore its lead when Nathan Morris conceded a penalty, but Pratt came to the Bears' rescue. The visitors did eventually hit the front, Kane Goodchild with the header. A well-worked Bears move then fell to Jason Calburn, but his shot went wide. When Mooney and Goodchild combined again to make it 3-1, Hamilton had secured the points to move into equal first. It's been a big day for Maitland. Wearing a special strip, the Magpies were raising money for charity Harry's House. On the field, the players were looking to raise morale. Ben Martin gave the home side an ideal start. Midway through the half, Alex Reid doubled the Magpies' advantage with another well-worked goal, as Maitland went on to celebrate its first ever NPL win.
There's always young, enthusiastic guys, getting their opportunity at this time of year, and it's their time to shine. I hope the boys all go really well on Wednesday night. I'll be barracking hard for them. As someone who's played for the Blues before, you just really hope they do well and represent.
City parking never fails to get people revved up, and tomorrow night councillors will consider a report that suggests charging higher fees at convenient spaces to encourage a high turnover, as well as addressing parking demand in the Junction, Derby Street and Hamilton. That could mean more of these creeping into those suburbs.
I feel disgusted. I feel like it's not a right way to go. I believe that it'll defer people into shopping centres.
The Hamilton Business Chamber wants the matter deferred and businesses surveyed.
We weren't consulted in any investigation that council did, as this is the first time we saw in the media today.
The majority of people NBN News spoke to in Beaumont Street today believe meters would drive people away.
Improve their turnover for coin, but won't improve the parking.
Yeah, people's not going to come and stop here, you know what I mean? Because they have to put the money in the parking meter. Look at in Newcastle. You cannot go in Newcastle. No one wants to go there.
It will stop the village sort of stuff where people pop in for a bottle of milk, loaf of bread.
If they do that, we lose more business from Beaumont Street.
Also on tomorrow night's agenda, councillors will decide whether to give themselves a pay rise. They're considering an increase of 2.5 or 7.7%, taking their pay up to $27,550, the maximum increase approved by the local government tribunal. As a councillor, the Lord Mayor receives both fees. It could be particularly hard for ratepayers to swallow, given they've just been slugged with a 47% rate hike over the next 5 years. Council says the special rate variation cannot be used to pay councillors. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
By 2025, another 12,500 people are predicted to call the eastern suburbs of Lake Macquarie home. Mayor Jodie Harrison says to support such a boom, council needs to ensure it spends its money wisely.
We want to make sure that we've got the libraries and that we've got the community facilities, that we've got the parks to match that population growth.
All up, council plans to fork out $92 million over the next 10 years on infrastructure across 21 suburbs. Among the big ticket items, a sports field for Crowders Bay, $7.4 million for a new park and skate park at Charlestown, another upgrade to Spears Point Park, and a $2.6 million community centre at Windale.
So some of those projects will be fully funded by developer contributions. Some of them will be funded by council contribution as well.
Also on the list, $29 million for a new aquatic centre at Charlestown, something eagerly anticipated by the local swim club.
Central Coast's got them, Sydney's got them, other regions have got them, but we seem to be really lacking on a good high quality facility.
Councillor Barry Johnston says while development fees will help fund the majority of projects, money will almost certainly need to come from other sources.
It can come from state grants, it can come from federal grants, it may end up coming from borrowings.
The draft plan is expected to go on public exhibition following tonight's meeting. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
The North Stars were already down 2-0 when Canberra scored a controversial third in the second period. Newcastle finally had success in the third period. Geordie Woodrick with the North Stars first. A goal to Matt Watini 2 minutes later made it 3-2. Woodrick then grabbed his second to tie things up, but the Brave received another stroke of luck to go back in front. Bo Taylor came to Newcastle's rescue to send the game to a shootout. But it was Canberra who proved too strong in extra time, and the North Stars fell to second on the ladder. To the air race series, and Matt Hall is on his way to Croatia tonight to prepare for the third round. After back-to-back second-place finishes, the Merewether pilot is hoping to do his celebrating on the top step of the podium. Curry's Chad Reed has shown significant improvement in round 2 of the American Motocross Championship. The Australian sat inside the top 5 throughout the 30-lap race before eventually sneaking into 4th. His 8th place finish in race 2 saw him move up to 9th overall.
Wherever there's mind-numbing chaos in Mad Max, there's Newcastle's Rob Jones. Whether it's blowing up a post-apocalyptic semi while riding a motorbike, to full-tilt high-flying stunts and even rolling trucks.
This is the pinnacle. Just so many stunts in this movie and it's just so full on. Yeah, it's going to be hard to beat.
If you haven't already guessed, Rob's specialty is vehicles, and he rides bikes and drives trucks through much of the 4th instalment of George Miller's action franchise. He was on set in Namibia for 7 months, up to 17 hours a day. His highlight, the biggest, riskiest stunt of the whole movie.
I think riding off a cliff face, that was probably the hardest thing to do because you couldn't see where I was actually going to go off of properly and then land in a catch net and just hope that that catch net did catch me and didn't break loose or I missed it.
The stunts took plenty of planning with no computer-generated wizardry.
In this movie, no. George wanted to go back to old school stunts and that's what we did. We did every stunt for real. Everything's done on the day, no CG.
Rob's been a stuntman for 15 years and previously worked on Wolverine and Ghost Rider. He's a humble, unassuming character who also loves racing bikes back home.
Yeah, I'm a plant operator, so drive heavy machinery and semi-trailers around here in Newcastle for a company called Daracon. So I just get the call and head off and do movies if need be, so I'm quite lucky.
It's the stuff a thrill seeker's dreams are made of, and all while working alongside the likes of Charlize Theron.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, a lot more action in this one. Again, such an iconic movie and to be part of it's just unbelievable.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.